You are now listening to Nexxlegacy Radio, a radio station for the people.
And pick it up and check it out. So it's one of the things that I wanted to express to him as far as being an author. And without further ado, I want to welcome my man, Mr. Paul Michael Glaser, to the AM Buzz. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How's it going?
It's going well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I want to thank you first off for taking the time to hang out with me for a little while and being a fan of yours in the acting world for as long as I have been. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to have some conversation with you in regards to a couple of different things, not just acting and how do you feel about certain things now, but you're an author, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that first.
Very good. Fire away.
Now, your book is available, and people can go on paulmichaelglaser.org to pick it up. So, Crystalia, the Source of Light, just a synopsis of the book and what it's about, if you can give to the listeners out there that their interest has probably peaked right now. It's like, oh my goodness, Mr. Paul has a book.
Okay, that's old info. The website is crystalia.com.
Perfect.
And Crystalia is spelled Chrystallia.
Mm-hmm.
Crystalia.com. They can also get it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Let me tell you what the book is about. It's about a 14-year-old girl. It's told in her voice, and her 9-year-old brother. It's the last Christmas of the mom who's dying, and it's the last Christmas in the house because the bank is kicking them out. The girl is angry and bitter and only believes in what she can see and touch. The boy believes in the need to believe. And on Christmas Eve, they find themselves on a journey through an underground medieval kingdom where everything and everybody are made of minerals and crystals in search of the source of light. That's the log line.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's written in the classical entertainment tradition of Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz. I wanted to try to find a way to share with people what I'd learned in my life about loss and helplessness. So I decided to write to the child in all of us. I wanted to make it as entertaining a project as I could, so that everyone could enjoy it. And so it's a book that can be that's marketed for kids from 9 to 16, but anybody can read it, and it's also designed so that the family can take it down from the shelf and read it aloud to and with each other. All the characters down there in that world are the crystal characters all speak with different accents: French,
mm-hmm.
Italian, German, Spanish, etc. And I phoneticize these accents so that when people read it aloud, they can find themselves speaking with a Japanese accent or a French accent or what you like. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a very enjoyable book. And at its heart, at its core, while it's very entertaining and fun, it also asks and answers the question, what is the purpose of fear in our lives?
Mm-hmm.
And that's my spiel on the book. Any questions you have or anything you want to discuss, I'm more than happy to discuss it.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that, I'm clicking on Amazon and I'm making a purchase of one of these books, and all my listeners out there can definitely do that. It's very accessible and easy to get. I love the imagination of it all. So let me ask you a question about just you preparing yourself to be able to start putting thoughts and ideas together for this book. What mind state were you in when you thought about this whole concept that you wanted to be able to share with with our not just our listeners today, but people all over the world when it comes to a book like that? Because it is a mystical, magical kind of feel to it, and very curious to read it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I wrote it as a screenplay 13 years ago, and at the time, there was, by the way, there was no technology to show the properties of light. Now, thanks to James Cameron and Avatar, there is that technology.
Right.
I decided, when I realized there was no technology at the time, I decided to write it as a book. And I'd never written a book, so that was an interesting thing to begin with. And as I wrote it, in the process of writing it, I discovered, and I've discovered this in most of my writing and in most of my work, I discovered that my subconscious was really posing it was trying to work out things that I was dealing with in my life. And what I'd been dealing with for a long time was the loss of my wife and daughter, my son being infected also, and right. So there was a level of helplessness that I'd experienced, and I think I started to. I think what happened was when I realized that, then I started to understand what the book was really about, and so not only did I then was I able to enjoy creating all these fun characters in this interesting world, but I also understood what I was searching for. I was searching for the same thing as the boy and the girl were searching for, and I was trying to understand how to deal with helplessness and all of that. And so that's kind of how it evolved. I can't point my finger to a flash of light that occurred, at some time during the day or night that I jumped up and went, eureka, there it is. I mean, it was something
right.
that evolved. I do a lot of drawing and painting also, and I discovered that the process of the thing that's most interesting to me is to see what's coming out of me, and as opposed to I'm going to draw that tree over there, and that's good too, and that's fun, and that's very fulfilling to choose something to draw. But I'm also very interested in the whole notion of experiencing what's happening inside me, how it comes out, and how it manifests itself when I'm being creative.
Wow, that's very good. And as Paul Michael Glaser is our guest on the AM Buzz, while listening to you talk about it and talk about the book, and people can definitely go and pick it up on Amazon.com and go to Crystalia.com as well. I'm hearing there's a lot of passion that was attached to everything that you put down in the book, and when you have a connection to somebody, or be it if it's an author or entertainer or an actor, and you kind of either see or hear or you can even read a lot of, I guess you could say, sweat and tears that came with this book. It's really commendable on your part for us to even be allowed to even view your imagination and your ideas in a sense, right?
Well, I don't know if commendable is the word I'd use. It's an opportunity.
Right.
I've been given a gift to be able to communicate and tell stories in all the creative avenues of my life. So I feel like I'm blessed in that way, and when I learned what I learned about fear and helplessness, I decided this is just too amazing a thing not to share with people, and so that became my primary motivation. Let me also just say that there's the audio book of Crystalia. I finished it a short while ago, and it should be out in a couple of months, or maybe less. I read all the parts and all the accents, and had a good time. There's everything. There's the orange sapphire prince. He speaks with a French accent like this, and he's very serious, and he sings a lot, and he likes to be polished. That's his favorite thing. And the Holy Clear was like the Pope. And he is speaking like this, like an old Italian vampire. And and Pyrite was the court jester. He's speaking like this. I'm a Pyrite. My name is Friday. I want to see it. And he speaks with a Puerto Rican accent, and it goes on, and it's a lot of fun. I also have ebook versions in English, French, German, Spanish, and Italian. That I think the ebook version is already out, but those other 4 languages, in case any of your listeners prefer to read in one of those languages, that's coming out shortly too.
Very good, very good. Today, with all the distractions in the world nowadays compared to, I want to say maybe 25, 30 years ago with the internet, a lot of people would consider books, be it if they have their iBooks now or, the traditional books of how you go into a library to actually pick up a book or check out a book. It's still there, but it's not as promoted heavy as it once was. So, in your opinion, as far as the evolution of not just being an author, but also trying to get kids and adults to, utilize the library a lot more and to pick up an actual paper book or, an actual book to pick up and read and flip through the pages, how important is that to you in society nowadays?
Well, look, life on our planet is always evolving and changing, and the whole evolution of ebooks and the internet, that's a reality that we can't get away from. And if it provides a platform on which to tell one story, then it's good to take advantage of it. I do believe personally that holding a book, literally holding a book, and having that book as yours. It's not your iPad, it's your book, and you're holding it and you're curling up with it in bed or on a couch or a chair or on a lawn or wherever you like to read, and it's your own personal experience. Reading is a book is, and this goes for the ebook also, by the way. Reading a book is a very special event for a person because when you're reading the book, you get to shoot the movie, if you will, in a way in which nobody else will ever be able to do because it's your imagination and it's the way you see the things that the author describes that are personal to you. So the personal experience, is somehow enhanced by the fact of holding an actual book. And books, you're right. Books are going to become a rarity. They're going to become what the gasoline car is going to become.
Right.
It's on its way out.
Because I'm in my 30s and I'm a throwback kind of person where it's I can have all this technology in front of me, but it's important for me, like you said, to sit on a recliner and just pick have a book to read and flip through the pages because it seems like it's more personal to me in a sense like that. And just a real quick story, Paul. My daughter she went on a school field trip to one of the farms and. And the kids that was in her class and my daughter, of course, they were all about, okay, where's the technology and where's, all these X amount of things. And they quickly forgot about that, and they were more engrossed in, milking the cow. They, had their fun time where they had the old potato sack races and, the stilts, and they quickly forgot about the technology of how everything is today because those simple things and the fact that they were having fun together was more important at that particular time. That's the way I see when it comes to technology. As long as, you have those alternatives out there, it's a very good look to be able to still go back and do certain things.
Yes. I mean, the key word you used there was personal
right.
For me. I think that reading a book is a very personal and private experience. No one can take it away from you. No one can get between you and the pages. You're there, and if the book is well written and touches you, then it's an opportunity to go inside yourself and experience in a very personal way the things that the protagonist and the author were experiencing. And one of the things I tried to do here was I tried to find the universals, if you will, the things that touch everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole notion of dealing with helplessness in our lives is it's a huge notion, because when you stop to think about helplessness, and you begin to realize that as much as our brains would make us think that we have control of everything and that we are powerful, we are all powerful, the truth that always exists is that in the face of our mortality, we are all helpless.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't like to now, let me just say parenthetically, I'm going into the serious side of the book, and it's very important to me to also underline, while I'm doing that this is a very entertaining book also. So it's not just a serious treatise on helplessness and like that. So
right.
when we look closely at our lives, we discover, if we're willing, and our mind will let us and not be in denial, because the mind does not like to deal with fear, we will realize that we're helpless so much of the time. We can be stuck in a traffic jam and late for an appointment. We're helpless.
Right.
If you were to ask a person stuck in a traffic jam, are you scared? What are you scared of? What's the fear about? They'd say, I'm not scared. I'm pissed off. I'm angry. I'm late. I'm nervous. But they don't want to talk about it in terms of it being a fear of helplessness.
Right.
So that helpless button, if you will, that big red button, that gets pushed more times than we'd like to know, and a lot of times, because we don't want to deal with it as fear, we express it as anger towards ourselves, which would be depression, anger towards others, judgment, judging others, racism, bigotry, the mind wants to know that it has power and has control. So, people spend their lives amassing great fortunes or amassing a lot of power, or trying to hold on to belief systems that they create in an attempt to answer this question. But the reality is that it's there, and as much as our minds would have us say it isn't there, learning to deal with and recognize fear is a very powerful tool for our ability. And let me go on a little bit further, if you don't mind, and if this isn't too... the purpose of fear in our lives, I learned a very interesting thing. We say in our lives, I am scared, I am sad, I am frightened, I am sad, I'm depressed. And we always say I am. And it's really a misuse of words, because what we mean is a part of us is scared. A part of us is sad. Mm-hmm. And if we look at the part that's scared, if we don't say, no, I'm just angry, I'm this, that, if we can really look at it, we can say, we can give it a color. We can say, what color is it? If you're really angry, it's like red and orange and like that. We can even give it a perimeter. We can say, look, it's in my stomach or it's in my chest. And so we then can identify the parts of us that aren't scared. How about our back of our ear, or our nose, or our top of our head?
Right.
So that raises the question, well, what's the part of us that enables us to distinguish between the part that's scared and the part that's not scared? And that part is our consciousness, our awareness, our innately human gift to be aware. And from that place, when we identify that place, then we have the opportunity to make a choice. And the choice is to not only acknowledge the fear, but also acknowledge our courage. Our courage to keep going in this life, our courage to carry on, our courage to pursue our faith, our courage to move ahead in spite of the fact that we are powerless in our mortality. And when we do that, we find compassion for ourselves.
Right.
We like ourselves, as opposed to hating ourselves, and by extension, we then become compassionate towards others. So one might say that the purpose of fear in our lives is to give us the opportunity to remember our consciousness, our awareness, and from that place, acknowledge our hearts. The purpose of fear in our lives is to give us the opportunity to love.
Wow. Very, very, very insightful. And you know what, Paul? Though, you know, it's like, you know, you have like pieces of, you know, yourself, your psyche that, you know, some people may not have tapped into, not just the helplessness, but, you know, it could be anything. And it's good that, you know, you're kind of putting it into a book. Like you said, it's entertaining, but also it kind of is a reflection of an emotion that people may not know they have, which they do.
They do. We all have it. We all have
right.
it. We all deal with it. And,
right.
No, I've been blessed with some really good teaching, and I've been practicing this now for a number of years. And so the time it takes from when I experience fear, in whatever form it is, whether someone does something that pisses me off, or I do something myself that pisses me off, or you know, or I'm anxious, or I'm sad, or I'm whatever I am. The time of the moment when I start feeling that, or realize I'm feeling it, and the memory of, oh, this is my fear manifesting itself.
Mm-hmm.
That time gets shorter and shorter, and so that I am able to put my hands together and say, thank you. Thank to the universe, to whatever we want to thank. Thank you for giving me this opportunity in all of this pain and fear and everything else. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to identify that part of me which is human, which is not the animal, but is human and is able to experience my heart, my love, my capacity
Absolutely.
to love.
Absolutely. And Crystalia, the Source of Light, is available now. If you go to Crystalia.com, you can go to Amazon. You know, you can go ahead and search it in your bookstores around the globe, and, you know, getting it online like we did right now. Amazon.com is definitely the place to be to grab it. Now, with this is your first book, right?
Yeah. This is
now
one of, by the way, this is one of 5 titles. In other words, there's 4 other books that aren't written yet. I'm working on the second one right now.
There you go.
But they will, you know. So it's a bit like a Harry Potter.
Excellent. Because you're so ahead of the game, Paul. You just actually answered my question, and I didn't even have to ask it. There you go. But I do have a couple of quick questions before we let you go, and one is, you know, my appreciation for you, not just like you said. I mean, to me, this is talent, you know, God-given talent that you've had and that you wanted to be able to put out there for your fan base and for your new fan base, but also you being a well-respected actor in the entertainment business for your work for everything in movies and television. You know, of course, I mean, you know, me being a major Starsky and Hutch fan, it's a blessing to be able to have you on. I gotta ask you, compared to TV and movies and how it is now, compared to how it used to be when you first took on this God-given role that you were supposed to have, what are some of the major differences that you see from then compared to now?
In terms of acting, or in terms of
acting and just the way that TV and movies have evolved over those years.
Well, first of all, let me say that it's a very seductive thing to think in terms of the good old days.
Yes.
And everything has its purpose, and everything has my dog. Everything has its time. Hey, stop that. And I don't know what he's barking at. And so that being said, I think that the one thing that is important to understand is that it's all about storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're painting a picture, writing a book, acting in a role, directing a role, whatever it's about storytelling.
Right.
And storytelling, I think, is probably the most sacred thing we can do in our life, because that's the way in which we pass on our information from generation to generation.
Yes.
And that's the way we reaffirm our ability to deal with our life and our fear and our love and everything. So that never changes. That's a constant. And the tools with which we communicate change. Now, the difference between watching a movie, let's say, and in a movie theater, and seeing it on your television at home, is that one is a theatrical experience, if you will. It's a experience like, and when I use the word theatrical, I'm talking about the experience of seeing something that A, is larger than life, and B, is experienced with a lot of other people. So one could say a football game, a movie, going to church, temple, any number of things in which we experience our brotherhood, our relationship to, now it's a helicopter coming overhead, oh my God!
Right.
Wow, that guy was low. We get to experience I was totally distracted. What was I saying?
No, you were talking about the just mainly just how everything's kind of evolved on a level when it comes to just how things are now.
Like, I was talking about the larger screen and the theatrical experience.
Yes. Right.
And so what we have to try to understand is that when we look at a television, we look at the close-up of a person. Their head is no larger than our head.
Right.
It is not a larger-than-life medium. Actually, you could make the point that the only thing that's larger than life, quote-unquote, about the television and therefore the computer is the amount of sets that are out there and the intimacy with which they allow us to exist in our lives. We can, televisions are, they're part of our life. They're part of our house, our apartment, and computers have become that way as well.
Right.
And so there is a feeling of communion with the rest of humanity on one hand. On the other hand, it tends to get lost in transmitting a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to a story or a spiritual uplifting or something like that. I mean, we can be moved by things we see on television and on our computers, no doubt. However, the experience that we get when we go to church or we go to the synagogue or we go to the football game or the parade, that experience is something that cannot be duplicated. Mm-hmm. The Greeks understood this about theater because what they did was they made all their characters, they stood on stilts, they wore masks that were larger than life. And so what happens when you're dealing with something that's larger than life is you are trying to identify the universal elements that glue us all together, that make up, create our brotherhood of man. And so that's what we experience. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how clear I'm being about that, but it's an interesting phenomenon because we will always need to go and be part of an aggregate. We will always need to be with other people experiencing something. That is part of our DNA. That's part of our need as members of the human race.
Right.
And so where television and computers and the internet have become very enabling in that way, in terms of gluing people together and giving them a sense, it's not as uplifting. It's not larger than life.
Right.
And so that has all changed. That's a very kind of intellectual.
Do you feel some of the creativity kind of went away? From I'll go from when you first started to now.
I think that what we're dealing with is, my attitude has always been cream rises to the top. It's tougher, it's more difficult, but and more competitive and all of that, and it is still capable of producing better or more. The capability is there. The capability is also there to produce a lot of mediocre stuff, a lot more mediocre stuff. And a lot of,
Very true.
And a lot of bad stuff. And so it tends to overshadow the fact that there is the opportunity to communicate stories, really well. We see that. We see different things that show up on the air and whatnot, and we go, wow, that's really an improvement. And also the technology. Now television can create images that are on a par with feature films, because the technology has evolved so far, and a lot of people do so much with special effects like that, and so that's all changed. But I think that the challenge is still there, and the need is still there.
Right.
I also think there's another level to this question, which is that we, and this is something that's always intrigued me. We have learned to experience and communicate and talk about, tell stories about about life and death and everything, in a very romantic way, if you will. In other words, I don't mean romantic in terms of falling in love. I mean romantic in terms of celebrating, glorifying, if you will, man's struggle at the center of the universe, as the center of the universe. And this is a holdover from prior to the discovery of the printing press.
Right.
So one might even make the proposition that when the printing press was invented, and all of a sudden people were going to get access to books, and now, of course, the internet and all of that, and people learn to read and everything like that. At that point, it had started to change, and people started to learn, man started to learn that he was not the center of the universe. And so the romantic tradition of telling stories and idolizing larger-than-life characters changed, and we then started to traffic more and more in the world of information. So the tendency is to judge things, books and movies and things like that, on their own individually, as being not as communicative or not as interesting or not as uplifting or whatever. And we're judging it on a yardstick that we inherited from our forefathers, when I believe the creative drive of mankind now is more about the planet. It's more about the internet. It's more about the trafficking in our experience that we're all on one planet, and that we're all a brotherhood, and we're all together. Creativity, quote unquote, is not in the romantic tradition of man's at the center of the universe. Now we are the subject. Our existence, our ability to find a commonality, universality, is what's become the creative exercise, and it manifests itself in many, many different ways. I mean, all these demonstrations and all of these, all these things, they're all very creative attempts at mankind, albeit sometimes violent and terrible and have awful results. Mm-hmm. They are more of the creative expression of humanity now, I think, than, we still love our paintings and our drawings and our stories, and they're necessary. As I said before, they're very necessary, but I think there's another way to look at the manifest creativity of humanity.
Mm-hmm. And the evolution of it. Paul, Michael Glaser is our guest, and before we wrap it up, I gotta make sure that I let the people know Crystalia and the Source of Light is available. You can go to Crystalia.com. You can also go to Amazon. You can go to anywhere and see if your local book spot has it. Chances are it's a good chance you probably do, and I'm glad that you're actually doing it in a I guess you could say a series or a set. So it's once I make that purchase today, and just to be able to go ahead and read it, and I'm actually going to make me look forward to the next one, and so on and so forth. But I got to tell you, Paul, it is an honor and a privilege. Like I said, it's like I grew up watching you on television, and to be able to have a conversation with you about this and about your evolution, also being an author, first-time author, and just to kind of watch you grow still with your God-given talent, your the opportunities that you have given your fans has been tremendous. So I have to get ready to close by saying thank you for as much as you've done. On acting, writing, directing, now author. Is there anything you can't do?
There's nothing any of us can't do. That's one of the most important things to remember. By the way, just so for your information and your listeners' information, I'm about to go into a really fun experience. I'm going to do a tour through England, Scotland, and Ireland, playing Tevye and Fiddler on the Roof.
All right.
And I'm really
you're going back to your early roots then. You're going back to where it all started, right?
Yeah, why not? I trained in the theater, and that was what I was about. And I thought, well, this is an opportunity to do something. Tevye is not a role that everyone gets to play, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll be exciting.
Perfect. And I'm looking forward to not just spreading the word about your book, but also any and everything that you do, be it if it's any film coming up, television coming up, and any new books that you come out. And Paul, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for hanging out with me for a little bit.
I thank you because it's been a pleasure, and I always enjoy being here. I hope I haven't confused or bored anybody, but I always enjoy an opportunity to be able to share what I'm thinking about. So there you go.
And somebody that has a legacy that you have and continue to have, anything that you say, people are going to either, sit very quietly and or take notes. So it's like myself. So it's a privilege.
Either that or they're going to think I'm full of it and string me up, but that's okay.
Which we know. Paul, Michael Glaser, blessings to you, man, and don't forget to never be a stranger here. You are more than welcome to come in anytime and hang out with us, and I really appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Blessings to you and to all your listeners.
All right, perfect. That is actor, icon, author, Paul Michael Glaser, and we'll be back after this.
Thank you for listening to the #1 radio station for the people.